Are you working hard, but you still feel like you're not where you should be? Growing up as first generation or in an Asian American household, you are definitely taught how to study hard, get to a good school, get a good job, and make a good paycheck. And then you're set. Life should be good, right? But not exactly. The truth is, a lot of us have been programmed from a young age to believe certain stories and thinking about money and wealth. Today, I'm going to talk about how I quit thinking poor and I started thinking like the rich. Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie No, and I'm a life and mindset coach. And I'm passionate about helping women like you build confidence and really build a life that they truly love. And with that comes financial security and financial freedom. So if you're ready to break free of that poor mindset, keep watching to the end to see how you can adopt this new mindset to help you create the financial future that you deserve. If you didn't grow up with money or you weren't surrounded by wealth or even exposed to it, you probably have lived by and or adopted these principles. So to create the financial future that you deserve, it's time to unlearn those old beliefs about money. So here are the 10 things that I quit believing about money in order to build my wealth. Number 1, I quit being a loyal employee. So, contrary to what my immigrant parents have taught me about loyalty and stability, I was a quitter. For a long time in society, it was believed that being loyal to a company or an employer, you would at some point be rewarded. I remember hearing these stories that these workers, if they stayed with the company for, let's say, 25 years or 30 years, on their anniversary, that company would buy the employee a Rolex watch. Those days are definitely gone. Now, if you stay at a company for 25 to 30 years, all you're faced with is uncertainty. We've all heard about quiet quitting. People doing the bare minimum because they realize that putting in that extra effort isn't getting them rewarded. And let's be real, in today's economy, with the constant layoffs and restructuring, companies often don't value loyalty like they used to. I know someone personally who has given 2 decades to a company and they were fired over Zoom and given 15 minutes to collect their things before they were locked out of their computer. This should really drive the point home about how you are not irreplaceable at your job. I stopped being a dedicated and loyal employee years ago. And every time I made that tough decision to leave a job where I felt undervalued, it actually led to bigger and better opportunities for me. The system often rewards those who are willing to move around. Studies have actually shown that job switchers often experience a salary increase compared to those who stayed with the same company. While recent data has shown that has decreased, it's still a factor to consider. While the gap has narrowed for job switchers, it's still there, and they show slightly higher wage growth than those who had stayed in their roles with the company for a longer time. This highlights the importance of advocating for yourself and seeking opportunities that align with your value and career goals. When I first graduated college, I remember a classmate who, every time I saw him, he was at a new company. I remember that just gave me anxiety at the time. Like, oh my gosh, I would feel so bad trying to interview at work and going to these interviews secretly. But you know what? He was doing it right. Who knew? Unfortunately, companies don't reward you the same as they used to for loyalty. The key takeaway here is value your skills, know your worth, and don't be afraid to move on if you're not being valued. Number 2, I quit buying depreciating assets. This is a tough one because once you understand the concept, it's really hard to ignore. So, an asset is something that increases in value over time or at least holds its value. A depreciating asset, on the other hand, loses value over time. The classic example of this is a car. Some cars can lose up to 10% of their value as soon as you drive them off the lot. So that new car smell, it'll cost you thousands of dollars. Once you understand this concept, it can sometimes become an obsession. My husband and I even disagreed about buying our new car when our family was growing and we needed more space. I was like, I'll just leave the baby at home when I go and do my Costco runs. But, anyways, this one hits really hard in your 20s when everyone's graduating, getting those signing bonuses, starting their fancy new jobs, and moving into their new apartments with fancy furniture and buying their first bags and jewelry, whatever it is. I get it. It's tough to resist. And I've been there, I've seen it, I lived it. But trust me, the money that you didn't spend on that luxury good or that really expensive high rise apartment, I'm so glad that I didn't blow my money on those things back then and I waited. That money went into investments that have multiplied in many ways that, having a Chanel bag never could. And no judgment, I still like nice things. I'm just saying, I'm glad I didn't do it in my 20s. Number 3, I quit saying I can't. I've actually banned this phrase in my house. You can ask my kids. If we're being really honest, when you say you can't, it's not really a matter of I can't. It's usually a I don't want to, or I don't feel like it, or I don't have the time. So this simple shift of language can be incredibly powerful. Instead of seeing obstacles, you start seeing challenges to overcome. It's about taking ownership of your capabilities. Instead of limiting yourself with self-doubt, you can open yourself up to all the possibilities. This mindset is crucial for breaking out of the poor person mindset, which often involves feeling helpless or a lack of control. I mean, just a few years ago, I kept saying how I should start social media or YouTube. It'd be a great idea, but I never took action. I kept saying, I can't, I don't know how, I hate being on camera. And here I am. I'm now sitting at 432 subscribers. Thank you for each of you subscribing. And I'm so excited. This just goes to show that you can. You just don't want to, whether that's because you're afraid of being seen or you're afraid of people's judgments or what people will think, afraid of failing publicly. I mean, I get it. But you know what? I want to challenge you to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. Every time you think to yourself, I can't, just think, what if you could? Who knows? Just try it once and see what you can do. You might just surprise yourself with how much you actually can do. Number 4, I quit waiting for permission. So we've all heard the phrases like, take your seat at the table, or you want to be in the room where it happens. But guess what? For many of us, especially women and people of color, we may never get invited to this table. So if you're waiting for an invite, you might be waiting forever. Instead, I love the idea of taking control of our own destinies and making our seat at the table. Right? If that table doesn't welcome you, make your own table. Don't wait for the permission. No one's going to give you permission. Go out and do the thing. Go out and get what you want. Being an Asian woman raised by immigrants, I was taught to constantly be respectful of others, respect my elders, respect strangers, which often meant doing what was asked of me or listening and not speaking up. Go to school, get the A's, get a job, and work yourself to the ground. For the same pay, probably less than your coworker, Chad. I was so busy being respectful of others that it was at the cost of my own self-respect. Hit that like button if you know what I'm talking about. So instead of waiting around for someone to give you a raise or notice your hard work and reward you, if someone doesn't see your value, then take it upon yourself to go somewhere else. It's time to forge your own path and make your own luck. Number 5, I quit being quiet about money. How many times have you heard that talking about money is rude? I used to and still do ask. I am that person who's always like, Oh, how much was it? How much did you spend? How much did you get it for? How much did you make? Sometimes, actually, a lot of times, people have told me, like, you can't ask that, or that's so rude. Like, don't ask that. But the thing is, I wasn't asking to be judgy or rude or nosy. It was quite the opposite. I'm asking out of curiosity because I don't know. I have no reference point. And I was just collecting data for the day that I want to do it or I want to spend that money. The point is, if we never talk about money, how will we ever learn? I grew up in a working class family and I didn't have any doctors or lawyers or professional figures in my life. So I really had no concept of how much money was a lot of money. I always had enough. My parents provided and it was a great life. However, I will say that I never lacked in anything, but I was very aware of how money was treated as a limiting factor for me. So don't get me wrong, I always had enough, but I definitely knew there was always room for more, and I wanted it. I once remember talking to a classmate in college, and he was clearly a beneficiary of generational wealth. He told me, like, why do you care so much about money? Like, money isn't everything. And I acknowledge that money is not everything, and that's not what I'm saying. However, I did tell him it's easy for him to say when he had so much of it growing up, and he still does have so much of it, right? Like, here he is, barely wanting to go to this school, only going because his dad will pay for it, whereas I am working my way through school with student loans at about 13 to 20%. It would fluctuate. And so when you turn to me and say money isn't everything, that is such a privilege, right? It's easy for him to say that when he'd always had it. When you grow up with so much of it, you never have to think about it. And to be honest, that's what I strive for my kids. But I'm not just about handing them money. I want to educate them. I want to talk about it. If I buy this, then we can't buy that. What are your priorities? And I teach them that there's an opportunity cost to everything making that purchase. And that means we can't put this money elsewhere. Even from a young age, when my kids ask for a snack, I will take a bite of that snack and I'll go, tax. I explain to them, you got to pay your taxes. My daughter even knows that tax day is April 15th. Yesterday, she had asked me, oh, mommy, are you so happy because your taxes are done? I don't want talking about money to be taboo. I want it to be so normal in my household that they're comfortable thinking about it, talking about it, calculating it, and dreaming about it. Number 6, I quit comparing myself to others. I think especially in Asian culture, there's this keeping up with the Joneses. Actually, it's more like you got to be better than the Joneses. And on theme with this video, I was once a quitter. Once I had fun at my job and learned all that I could, and then realized that my work wasn't valued anymore, I just moved on to a different job. And being a constant quitter as an Asian woman, not so great, like not ideal. It's not something that people are proud of. I started to feel a lot of shame. When I was feeling that way, I would constantly compare myself to others with I should be further along in life. Honestly, it was a huge waste of time and energy, and it just kept me stuck in this cycle of shame and embarrassment. It occupied a valuable time where I could have been dreaming about my next big thing and how to get there. When I had my first kid, I just realized like no one's living my life. No one is walking in my shoes. No one is paying my bills. So why do I care what everyone else is doing or thinking about my life? When I started to understand that my version of a successful and happy life might look wildly different than someone else's, that's when I freed myself and allowed myself to do all the things that I really wanted to do versus all of the things that I thought that I should do. I gave myself permission to live my life for myself and according to myself. Number 7, I quit focusing on what I didn't have. So I'm not proud to admit this, but I used to be a big whiner. My favorite phrase was, why me? Why is this happening to me? Why now? And just thinking about it right now, it's exhausting. But this one simple shift really transformed my life. Instead of asking why, I simply started asking how. When we were furniture shopping and I saw a table that I really wanted and it was really crazy expensive, instead of saying like, why is that table so expensive? My brain went to, how can I afford that table? So instead of crying like a victim and staying stuck in the whys, just asking how immediately transformed me into a problem solver, someone who can figure anything out. This is a huge mindset shift. A poor mindset is usually focused on the limitations and what is lacking, while a wealthy mindset focuses on solutions and possibilities. So when you open yourself up to the possibilities, this is where the magic is. Number 8, I quit saving money in just a savings account. I'm first generation, and my immigrant parents were all about saving. They always wanted you to have a safety net to fall back on. So for the longest time, I thought having money sitting in the bank account meant that you were rich, but I was wrong. Wealthy people put their money to work. It's never just sitting there. One time when I was at the bank a few years back, the representative was talking about opening more accounts and then linking the accounts. He said something like, yeah, we can link all your accounts so that you don't pay the fees because we understand that not everyone just has all their money sitting in one account. It's usually all over the place. That's when my brain was like, oh, that's when it clicked. I once coached a woman who was retirement age, and she had no retirement account. All her savings that she had amassed in her lifetime was sitting under her mattress. And it just broke my heart. Inflation is just eating away at every single dollar that's sitting under that mattress. And this is why basic financial knowledge or even just talking about money is so important. Can you imagine if she had just moved that money to a high yield savings account or invested it? Savings is important, but you also have to make your money work for you and multiply. Think of yourself like an employer and your money is your employee. You want them to work for you. Number 9, I quit saying yes to everything. Growing up, I felt really uncomfortable saying no. I just wanted to avoid conflict and confrontation, so I just say yes, even when it cost me my time or my sanity or my well-being. I didn't think about the cost of anything. However, as I've grown older and wiser, I've realized that that saying is very true. There is a cost to everything, and you're fooling yourself if you think otherwise. When I read about successful people, they all have one thing in common. They value their time above anything else, so much so that they protect it so fiercely. They don't say yes to everything, and in fact, they say no way more often than they say yes. Time is your most valuable asset, so learn to protect it. Learn to say no to things that don't align with your values or drain your energy. This frees you up to focus on what matters to you. Reminder: just because you can doesn't mean that you should. Number 10, I quit blaming others. The easiest thing to do is to blame someone, right? The president, the economy, your boss, your spouse, your upbringing. But what if we just accepted everything as it is? So yes, the economy is rocky. Yes, your boss is a jerk. Yes, your spouse didn't listen. Yes, you had a poor upbringing or terrible past. But here's the difference. I can accept all of these things, and then I can figure out how I want to feel, how I want to act, and how I want to move forward with my choices. Your past does not have to dictate your future, and no one is coming to save you. So you're gonna have to figure it out yourself. What would change for you if you accepted 100% responsibility for your life today? Is the ultimate step in taking control and adopting a truly wealthy mindset. So, these are the 10 habits that I quit to break out of the poor person mindset and to start creating the life that I truly want. I know it's not always easy, and it takes time and effort to change and unlearn these patterns, but it's absolutely possible. You have the power to take control of your finances, your mindset, and your future. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Which one of these habits resonated with you the most? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to know what to do the next time you get paid, watch this next video.